Okay, so in this video, I'm gonna go over 80% of photography in terms of framing and composition in just 10 minutes, because sometimes it's hard to put your finger on what is wrong about your images or why your images don't look as pleasing as other images, or they just fall flat and you're not sure why. So understanding these principles lets you notice these photo opportunities and really try to pinpoint what it is about that photo that doesn't work, why I don't want to post it, why it doesn't look the way I want. And it's usually down to the balance of the photo. So all these reasons we'll go over, about 5 reasons and 5 things I look for, and how to get the most out of your images, and why some images just fall so flat but you don't know why. So sometimes we look at our image, very often we look at our images and we just can't put our fingers on what it is about the photo that we don't like about it. Especially when you're starting photography, you take these images and you don't know why they don't look so good. But when you get more experienced and you know these techniques, you look at the image you just took and something about it isn't quite right. But now, when I look at my images, I quite often know and say to myself, this image isn't working because the image isn't balanced, or there's not enough depth in it, or knowing this stuff has given me the ability to do the things that we'll go over in this video. So your images kind of pop and don't fall super flat. So the first thing I look for when I'm taking photos, the most obvious and easiest one, is the leading lines in your image leading to the subject, creating depth. So this one, for example, I love how the lines go through the subject and then there's a triangular line to the subject as well. And it's also a really good example of layers to your image. So we've got the concrete, we've got the chair, and then we've got the jeans on top. So this image I really like in terms of photography because of the leading lines to the subject. The eye really gets guided into the subject. And as soon as I came across this location, straight away knew it would be a great photo opportunity. Then these ones are interesting shapes and lines leading to your subject and getting the depth to bring the subject back, and then letting the lines guide, creating more depth in your image. So this one's a really strong frame. So we have foreground, we have lines leading to the subject, and the subject is framed, and then there's a lot of depth. So there's a few leading lines going on, a lot of framing, and the image feels really full. So it's like a frame within a frame. And then this one's a good mixture of lines framing the subject within those frames, and then also depth to the image as there's layers. Then this one's really nice because of your eye naturally gets guided down the street, so shooting towards corners, and it's another example of really filling the frame. So probably the hardest one out of all these, and the one that I try to think about the most recently and for video as well, is filling the frame. So it's definitely the hardest one to understand, and you want your image, so when you fill the frame, parts of your subject or your image is flowing over the edges of the frame. So quite often people shoot a little too wide and there's too much space around the subject. So this one was achieved by quite zooming in post. So you're kind of doing the opposite of framing something and you're letting the lines fill the whole image. There's no space in the image that is too empty. So cropping can come really in handy for that one. So you just want to keep an eye out for depth. So for example, in this shot, I stood behind the chair for depth. I added the clothes on the table for depth, and the computer there hanging off the edge of the table for depth, and I shot towards the corner of the room for depth. And then this one is negative space, where the subject is better off placed away from other subjects of your image to balance out the shot. So often you take photos and you're just not happy with them, but you don't know why. So I always try to figure out why that is and why other images tend to just pull you in terms of proper photography techniques. But what I did focus on first, and I think is the most important, is editing. So I've spent maybe $40,000 on bringing the best photographers and editors together into a Lightroom course so people can actually get the style they want. It's very confusing editing in Lightroom, but when you have a blueprint, step-by-step curriculum of pro people taking you through their edits, raw image presets, step-by-step, then you can also get the most out of your images. So if that interests you, there's free presets, raw images, free Lightroom training over on my website. And yeah, catch you in the next one.